So Divan,
Just the right-hand side. Yes, I'm sorry.
Divan, this data in this article, the instructive, it covers the entirety of the period. It covers the period which is prior to the Section 6A operation,
You're right.
which is prior to 1966. It covers 66 to 71, and it covers 71 and thereafter, almost till 2011. Now, we are on the constitutional validity.
Yes.
We will have to see whether the impact of Section 6A was such that between 1966 and 1971, the operation of 6A, to test your argument, led to a radical change in the demographics of the state so as to affect the cultural identity of the state of Assam, because that's the core of the argument. Now, post 71, this article seems to suggest that the increase in the rapid increase in the numbers of a particular community is suggestive of increasing infiltration.
Yeah.
That has to be dealt with, of course, by a very strict enforcement of the law. Insofar as 6A is concerned, 6A is not a question of law enforcement. 6A, we are testing pure validity.
Yes, I agree.
So, in that sense, is there any material to indicate that the impact between 66 and 71, because the migration which took place between 66 and 1971 was directly impacted by a provision like Section 6A. Incidentally, 6A comes on only post 85, post Assam Accord.
That's not really how it's worked out.
Somebody who was coming in between 66 to 71 had no aspiration or expectation that they're going to be granted citizenship. They came in. Now, where is there any material to indicate that this was really affected by 6A?
I would just suggest.
So the committee, the second committee which you had given us, the report, which was the Brahma Committee report.
The Brahma Committee.
Para 1.14, the Brahma Committee report, in fact, said that please implement the Assam Accord completely.
Correct.
Because Brahma Committee said, the Brahma Committee didn't say go behind that part of the Assam Accord, which conferred citizenship on that group of people who came between 66 and 71. They are saying implement the other provisions, strict border fencing, detection of foreigners, deportation of foreigners, deletion from the electoral roll,
establishment of more
tribunals, giving teeth to the purpose of the law to detect illegal infiltration from any other country and deportation of those persons. That is what Brahma Committee. Brahma Committee also doesn't say that go back on the Assam Accord. That was not really the.
I'm not arguing that. It's a political settlement. If someone has a political settlement,
right,
good luck to them, and let's hope that things get settled. But
statute has only implemented the political settlement.
Yes, but the statute, the political settlement gives no immunity to the statute. The statute must follow the test of the constitution. If it is constitutional, your lordships will uphold it. But if it is unconstitutional, equally the court will strike it down. But to
test your argument, there is no material before us to indicate that the impact of granting certain benefits to citizens who came in between 66 and 71 was so great that the demographics or the cultural identity of the state was affected by that, the inflow in those 5 years.
First, there is material, because all of this is that material. But I am on another point.
Post 71, you need not labor, because there, in fact, that's your petition, which will, of course, that's the subject matter of the petition, which will be dealt with by the regular bench. On what are the steps which the government is taking to curb illegal infiltration? That is the second limit.
Why 66? Why before 66? What you find from these statistics is that there is a huge number of people who are coming even prior to 1966. Now, the question I ask myself, because your lordship is obviously ahead of the curve, but I am asking myself, why should Assam suffer in this manner? Do you have this for West Bengal? Do you have it for any of the other border states? What is this type of provision which you say that in Assam, if you are there and if you come and infiltrate through Assam, you settle down and you remain over there? I mean, I can understand the uniform law which you have. So keep this political settlement alive. That, of course, everyone must be encouraged to settle their disputes. And if you can have a mediated settlement, nothing like it. But eventually, if you are engrafting a law, then the law has to be first and foremost across the country applicable. Number one, across the country for all states. Number two, Surely, if the border states form a separate class, then it must apply to all border states. Here, what you are doing, and which I am going to show your lordships, the effect and impact is, you are encouraging people to stay on in Assam, remain there for a period of 10 years. And why Assam? Why 66 for Assam? Why not for other parts of the country? So what you are doing essentially is, this is invidious discrimination.
There again, the burden will lie on you to show that the extent of the infiltration between 66 and 71 in Assam,
I'm saying 66 itself is bad.
or was comparable to the infiltration in other states.
No, it's not for me to show. I'll just indicate. If I'm not, it's not for me to show. The moment I show, and that is apparent facially on the document or on section 6A, because 6A is applicable only to Assam and no other part. See, this is very important. You are singling out one unit from the entire federation. And you are making a special set of provisions over there, which are destroying my cultural rights and my identity by heaping me and by protecting people over there notionally, number one, and thereafter, as your lordships have seen from these figures, on a practical ground reality, where the percentages are just soaring. And then you have a second generation and a third generation. So, I'm sorry, yes.
The initial burden of proof lies on you because you are challenging constitutional validity.
So the classification itself is bad. I agree.
You must therefore show two things.
Yes.
That so far as Assam is concerned,
Yeah.
for the purpose of determining the quantum of illegal infiltration,
Yeah.
Assam was similarly situated as compared to other states like West Bengal, Tripura, other states, Mizoram, so on and so forth. Second, you have to establish that as a result of 6A.
I read that Law Commission report which gave those figures on the basis of census figures with regard to infiltration or whatever illegal migrants in other states as well.
Assam was much higher. Therefore, Parliament, if the quantum...
No, just have a look. I think West Bengal may be higher. Just have a look at that.
If the impact is greater in a particular state,
Sorry?
Parliament can always choose degrees of evil and then legislate. We've always allowed an under-inclusive legislation by Parliament.
It's not under-inclusive what you're doing over here. Sorry?
That, well, you should have applied 6A to West Bengal. You should have applied...
No, that's not my argument. That's not my argument at all. My argument is very simple. I mean, there are several arguments, but one amongst those arguments is with respect to Article 14. And my submission with respect to Article 14 is that we are people, plus we are living, I'm a community. That's why I spent a little time reading the description of whom I represent. I represent a large number of communities which have been living in Assam and who are enjoying culture and want to develop and continue to enjoy their culture.
Because now, when we deal with any matter challenging the constitutional validity of a statute, we begin with a presumption of constitutionality.
I think that's
very
fair.
Well settled.
That's fair.
But we also give Parliament the latitude to recognize degrees of evil. Evil in a sense, I'm using it not in a pejorative sense.
Right.
Parliament can identify the degrees of wrongdoing, the degrees of evil, the degrees of the problem which it wants to.
You're right.
Parliament does not have to legislate with respect to everything to legislate with respect to something. Now,
this is far more important. Let's just start
to Assam. You can certainly.
We are not dealing over here with some classification under a taxing statute or something. We are dealing with citizenship. We are dealing with political rights. We are dealing with issues of tremendous importance, not only for the current generation, but for future generations.
Doubtedly, yeah.
And therefore, I believe that there will have to be a very strong justification, which is furnished by the state, by the government, in support of this particular stand. It's not enough to say that, look, I had an Assam Accord, a political settlement, and therefore I have enacted a law. It's not enough to say that. Of course, you had a political. That's a historical fact. We are not countering or disputing that basis. But thereafter, when you make a law, the law has to be, in our respectful submission and understanding, even-handed. And it has to be even-handed. It cannot oppress a certain community or set of communities in the state so as to obliterate their culture. Whereas you ignore it, as your lordship correctly said, that of course the Parliament may do things in grades, etc. But the effect, when we go into this and when you see this, what's happening over here? You are having your entire demography which is changing along the border states over there. That's number one. That has an economic impact. It has a political impact. It has a social impact. And this is enormous. This is not something which is happening just... And this statutory provision is encouraging. So keep aside everything which is, I am first challenging 66 itself. Where is the question of suddenly sort of waving a wand and says everyone before 1966 is fine without any scrutiny at all? Then, yes. So, yes, my learned friend is right. It's not some sort of exemption under a taxing statute or something like that. This is when we look at the preamble and when you see the value of fraternity, the fraternity is among citizens. Fraternity at some larger quality, a larger level, maybe some global fraternity, etc. But here the constitutional mandate in the preamble is about fraternity among citizens. And that fraternity among citizens is sought to be destroyed by a statute which steps in and which destroys my community. How is that to be countenanced?
What is the